Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for November 25th, 2024. Coming up, we take a look at the best of the weekend. We pass the panic baton over to the Pacers, and we take a look at the upcoming week in NBA Cup action because it's heating up. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, S. Good morning, Zena. Huge weekend in the NBA. Yeah. It feels like, again, every single night something's happening. We had the big NBA Cup games on Friday night.
Yep.
We're going to get to that later on in the show. The Warriors have moved on to the elimination round. They're the first team to do so. The Raptors already been eliminated. Is that right, S?
They have moved on to a round themselves. Yes.
Yes.
It's opposite.
So anyway, well, the weekends, guys, there's so many games, and one of the easy ways to catch up. We're going to make our all weekend team, which is basically just the best of the weekend, the folks that stood out. And I think that we got to start with the Bucks because we've been worried about the Bucks since basically the season started, even before. If you're me, we've been calling them old. And the one guy that we said was kind of not old and actually doing his job, Giannis, he took it up a notch over the weekend. And the Bucks have now won 4 in a row. Like, we're no longer as worried. I still think that there's glaring issues with this team, but there have been some positive signs, guys. And S, look, they get the big NBA Cup win the other night. They knock down the Pacers and literally throw the panic baton right to them. So, I mean, the Bucks, Giannis had a great weekend.
Yeah, of course he did. And Giannis has been having a great season. Like, I think a lot of the Bucks' worries and woes and concerns were everything outside of Giannis Antetokounmpo. And so now that he is performing and the team around him is performing better, you're seeing them take care of their competition. And so in an Eastern Conference where, you're looking at the Sixers who are struggling, you're looking at some other teams that are really trying to find their identity, young teams, you have to be able to take care of business. And the Bucks are a team that now is handling what they need to get into that area of the Eastern Conference that they're supposed to be, right?
But the thing is, though, Zena, look, they're beating up the punching bags, and that's a step in the right direction. What happens when they get into the meat of this schedule coming up, and they've got to play some really good teams? Like, are they going to have enough in the tank?
And that's my concern. I'm looking at the 4 wins that they just had in a row, and I'm looking at the point differentials. I'm not super impressed just yet. That said, I am happy that there's chemistry starting to be visible on the court for the Bucks because that was the main concern. Giannis can have an all-star season, but if the rest of them are not coming together around him, it's not possible. So this is great that they're in stride, especially with the fact that Chris Middleton might be coming back next week.
Finally.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they need him big time. Nikola Jokic, he's on the all-weekend team, and basically going to be on every single weekend as long as he plays games. He missed a few games last week for personal reasons, came back Friday night, put up a crazy stat line, 33, 17, and 10. And they lost to Dallas, who didn't have Luka. That team has been doing some fun things. And then he puts up, a big almost triple-double, but they blew out the Lakers 25 points. So Jokic and S, did you see the tap, the 77-foot punch? This is one of the greatest shot attempts in NBA history. Nikola Jokic, way to not be a coward. He's coming up with new ways to play honest and fun basketball. I love that so much. Franz Wagner also on the all NBA weekend team for us. 67 points over the weekend. And look, I think right now, every time I'm seeing his names, I'm thinking about his big closeout and that victory over the Lakers. And it's just, this guy was pulling up. It kind of felt like Halliburton last year, before he was hurt. It was like every shot he was taking, it felt like it was going to go in.
Ready for the big moments. And that's huge considering the hole he's trying to fill for the Magic right now. I'm just thinking, like, if I'm Mo Wagner, like, I'm the coolest big brother alive. Like I'm in the league and I'm like, you just wait till my brother gets hot. You just wait. And that's exactly what it's been. Mo and Franz just going in, but particularly Franz Wagner stepping up, making big shots and being a two-way player too.
It's actually funny you say that.
Those guys are really great and really, really close. Their parents were with them the whole time in the World Cup and all this. And, this guy, we talked before the season about Franz and the lack of the jumper. Well, the jumper's fixed.
Yeah.
And we don't even think about Mo in the same way anymore. And he's been huge off the bench. Like Orlando in this run without Paolo, I think they're kind of finding out that they've got a little bit more juice than we thought.
This was the turn of the corner that the Magic were hoping Franz Wagner could make. You know, he won Player of the Week for them. It wasn't just a great weekend; it was a great week for Franz Wagner. Over his last 10 games, he has just been on a tear. 28 points per game, shooting 47% from the field, 35% from three, 6.9 assists, which is a career high in that stretch. He's been the main ball handler, making plays. He's super strong too. I think that's one area that is really, really underrated for him. He can get downhill and kind of use his shoulders to finish in and around the basket. So his creation is at another level. My excitement for Orlando is when Paolo comes back and you find these two working together. Yeah. That's like Orlando's the 3 seed in the East right now.
Which is crazy.
And it's just,
it's
amazing. Crazy.
Yeah. They're good. I don't know what else to say. They're a pretty good basketball team. And when you can defend like that, you're going to be in the mix for a lot of wins. And what they need is a guy, whether it's Franz Wagner or it's Jalen Suggs, that's going to get hot. And that's happened for them, you know, quite often early in the season. They're a fun ass team to watch. He's been a lot of fun to follow.
Agree.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Franz is definitely an all-star in the East. Speaking of, Jaylen Brown, also an all-star. Yeah. He started out the game on Sunday, guys. This was actually electric. 5 for 5 from 3 in the first 4 minutes. And the last one was just this moon ball that he shot over Rudy Gobert, who was really contesting. Because, I mean, look, the hot hand is real. And Jaylen Brown was experiencing it in the first 4 minutes. Now, the game kind of went off the rails a little bit for Boston after that. And it was actually a really fun game. And the Wolves, you know, they played them tough. But Jaylen Brown, pretty good weekend.
Yes, he did. Yeah. I mean, he had 31 against the Wizards as well to get them that win on Friday in that NBA Cup game. His scoring punch, like the efficiency, the way that he's shooting the ball, it's all coming together for a guy like Jaylen Brown, coming off an incredible summer that he had too. You think of like the versatility of what him and Jason Tatum can do on any given night, going back and forth, whatever they can do. It's kind of like a pick your poison type of thing with Boston. They're just so hard to beat on the offensive side.
There's too many tools. There's too many weapons. And it makes you
realize.
Too many
tools, too many
Derek
options.
White is one of the best players in the NBA that no one ever talks about. This guy, I haven't seen him miss a shot in 2 years.
Yeah, and
it's
like
absurd.
If the Celtics, you know, especially in this game against Minnesota, it got kind of weird there for a little bit for them. They just started spamming Derek White, Jason Tatum pick and roll, and it worked every single time. It's remarkable.
Al Horford, super scary in transition shooting threes. It's just, I don't know. They're a great team.
It's too much.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler, guys. Jimmy Butler made the all weekend team. Did you guys know that Miami just took a week off?
Yeah, so the weekend is the week for them, right? Weekend at Bernie's type of thing.
So in the midst of this time, he launched a new. Yeah,
it was a whole thing in the middle of the season. So Jimmy Butler, they have a great game. They go to OT and they beat that tough Mavs team. And Jimmy Butler he looked really good physically. So, you know, hopefully for them, Bam hit some threes in this game. I need to see it more often. I know you keep every time he makes a three. I know
do text you. Yes,
every single time. Guess what? Yeah. He's not making any threes in the woods because S is making sure I hear about him. Yeah. And finally, guys, we got a 6-man on our all weekend team. Chris Paul.
Love it.
3 wins in a row for the Spurs. They won some games without Victor Wembanyama. And thus far, Zena, like this is kind of, if you had asked us to predict and just spell it out line for line, this is what it would look like, right? First 15 games, I think Chris Paul has been the perfect guy to put out there with these young guys and with Wemby.
Absolutely. He's been the veteran presence that you need, especially considering Pop is not on the sideline right now. You see Chris Paul after every play, whether it's a foul, whether it's a point scored, whatever, calling his team together, redirecting them, calling things out. It's unreal how much he's also adjusted his own game to fit alongside Wemby. Like the other night against the Warriors, you saw Chris Paul setting screens for 7'4" Wemby. Right? Like that's usually the opposite case. And I also will say, looking at Chris Paul's stats, he's better in every single category this season already than he was last year at 39 years old. So everyone can talk about, the LeBrons of the world, the Stephs of the world, all of these aging players that are aging like fine wine. Include Chris Paul in that conversation.
You know what it is about Chris Paul, right? And why he's not the same in Golden State that he was in San Antonio. He can't lead old teams. He can lead young teams.
Interesting.
Hey, you know what? Andrew Schlecht definitely listened to the show. I think he would agree with you there. That OKC bump, that was real. Guys, stick around after the break. We got some news and, of course, bad injury news. Seems like the New Orleans Pelicans don't get good news over the weekend. Like every Friday, we seem to find out something negative about their team, and it's usually bad injury luck. And unfortunately, once again, the Pelicans are steadying themselves to be without Zion Williamson for an extended amount of time. We already talked about this last week. The expectation is maybe 4 to 6 weeks. People are saying he's nowhere close.
Yeah,
I'm guessing 6 to 8 weeks, 8 to 10. Might as well say 3 months at this point with Zion, because he just has a hard time staying on the court. And this team has just been hammered by injuries over and over again. And maybe it's just a coincidence, but Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram both fired their agents on the same day. And so I'm not sure what's happening. I don't know if any of it means anything, but I'm just saying, guys, that's something to watch out for, because the Pelicans, I mean, that's a disaster. Speaking of disasters, and again, more bad news. It's what we do here in this B block, unfortunately.
B is
Joel
for bad
Embiid
news? I didn't know
missed
this.
a couple of games over the weekend. The Sixers split those. They go 1-1. We got a good game out of the young guys, and we got a much rougher game out of those young guys. But they had no Paul George. They had no Embiid. And honestly, guys, I mean, when you look at the tea leaves here, Joel Embiid, after every single game, dealing with swelling. It's keeping him out now multiple games in a row.
Yeah.
I don't know, like what kind of timeline any of us could expect him to be on, or even if you're the team, what kind of timeline couldn't you put him on?
Well, they're 3-13. I mean,
right.
Can they even afford to put him on any type of timeline? Can
it
they
seems
shut him
like
down?
They need to start the process.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, if you're the Sixers right now, can you afford to have Joel Embiid miss another month of basketball?
Well, no.
You can't.
No. You need him every game.
You're right. And so they're forced into this situation where it's like he has to play, but he's not healthy enough to play, and he can't play well enough for them to propel to wins. And so where is the solution here? Like, what is the answer to their... I don't know. I honestly don't think there's anything out there.
If Andre Drummond was playing half as well as he did last season, maybe they don't lose as many games, but Drummond has not been good. A lot of the other role players haven't been able to step up. Gershon Yabusele has been a great signing for them, who has paid off like huge. And you can see where the fit with Embiid and with Paul George would be great. But if you don't have Embiid and you don't have Paul George, this team really is just
that's part of it too.
Bad place.
They don't have George here right now either, and so you're hoping like at one point when they made those massive signings that there could be some supplementary games where it's PG and Maxey, and then there would be Embiid and Maxey and whatnot, but it just hasn't been the case this year. It's the worst case scenario for the Sixers.
Really, honestly, none of us would have been willing to predict that this is how bad it would be.
Right. But one good thing, I don't want this to be the B bad news blog.
Positive vibes.
The positive thing is that it has revealed the emergence of Jared McCain. Like tonight is the first night since November 8th that Jared McCain didn't have 20 points in a game.
Crazy.
He said 7 straight. Yeah. Like unbelievable performance out of this rookie. And I do feel like he's that character out of High School Musical, like come to life.
Troy
where
Bolton.
He's just like he's literally like Troy Bolton, but like no, his best friend in the show. I can't remember in the movie.
Yeah.
But either way, he's
Corbin Blue.
There we go, anyways, Corbin Blue's character. But either way, this guy is so fun to watch. He's energetic. He's a great downhill player that has an amazing pull-up game. And Paul George said this in his podcast that Jared McCain can't be the best player. Like he can't be the best player, meaning everyone else has to step up, which is exactly what you're saying, Dave. Like it's not okay that the role players on this team are not the best players right now. Jared McCain being that is the only positive right now.
Yeah.
Can I just add one thing? Yeah. People will bring up the TikToks with Jared McCain, but nobody ever brings up that he's like one of the craziest hard workers in his rookie class. So it's like you do the TikTok star stuff, but you're also a hard worker. Like
you know what? I can make a promise to you right here. I will never bring up his TikToks.
Thank you.
We also, another thing something we love around here is when referees apologize, and it's been happening all season long. As we've been all on top of it. Zena, this time, Fred VanVleet was owed an apology right after the game. Again, right after the game.
Right. This is not the first time that Fred VanVleet has gone off on referees. Before, he did it in a press conference, and he said he was going to accept the fine. And yes, he did. He paid $30,000 for a fine, calling out refs for being bad at their jobs. whether that's true or not in that game, up to you to think about that. But for this one, he was right. At the end of the Portland game, he heard the Portland Trailblazers bench coaching Kamara, who was on him, to get ready to foul him as he was trying to make a 3-point shot to tie up the game at the end of the game. Kamara did exactly what he was coached to do, pushed up against Van Vleet, who then Van Vleet tried to bait a call and threw up a crazy shot. Now the refs
doesn't pay.
Did not.
Hate it.
Correct. The refs did not give him that call. They did say after the game that they would have given a call, but it would have been on the floor. They would not have gotten shots. And it then resulted in Fred VanVleet pointing his finger at every single one of the refs and saying things like, things that rhyme with, "You are an itch," or "Your name is Mitch."
Oh, wow.
Things like that.
Wow. Wow.
Quite the rhyme. Quite the
all
rhyme.
right, I thought we had a half-baked
Expletives,
situation. I didn't know what he was saying, but I'm
here.
glad that we had Zena here to lip read on that one.
I just want to say, if you are going to get fined by the refs and by the NBA, you might as well go all out.
Earn it.
Really get
Absolutely.
your money's worth, and Fred did.
Yeah.
Fred did.
Yeah. Guys, we got to talk about the Pacers just a little bit, scuffling a little bit. They're not the team that we expected them to be. They did pick up a win on Sunday against the Wizards, but I made a joke about the panic baton, not the panic button, because it feels like when the Bucks beat them on Friday, we instantly pass the panic baton right to the Pacers. And it's like, hey guys, have you looked at Tyrese Halliburton's stats? What is happening with the Pacers, S?
It is concerning. And by the way, in his post-game press conferences, I know you love the post-game sound bites. Like Hallie has not sounded the greatest on these. He just sounds dejected. He doesn't sound like he's very confident. And when he was asked about, does he think there's a situation where he can bounce back? He's like, I don't know. I hope so. I need to play better. So I appreciate the acknowledgement. Caitlin Cooper here had an interesting tweet about the home and away splits between Tyrese Halliburton. So she basically said, so Tyrese has been a completely different player this season when he gets sleep in his own bed and doesn't have to fly in a plane. At home, nearly 21 points, shooting 46% from the field, 39% from three in 6 games. Away, 12 points, shooting 19% from three. So it's such a massive difference. And I don't know. You've coached, you've played. Yeah. Do you guys know if there is a massive difference there, or is it
that sounds like
else?
a role player split to me. Role players play better at home right now, and maybe it's just what is he eating? What's his routine like when he's at home? There's something. Maybe he's got like a Casper mattress at home, and on the road he's just stuck with whatever they've got in the hotel. I'm not sure, but they got to figure it out because the expectations are extremely high.
And what's tough about this for Halliburton is that his high octane offense that we saw last year is the Pacers' identity. So when he loses his identity, that team loses their identity. And until he reclaims it and finds it again, they're in a terrible spot.
Yeah. And so much of it is the shooting. Like so much of it is drawing help with the shot and creating the offense for them. But it just
a lot of his
happened.
misses are just front rim. And, I'm not sure. Again, he looks like a guy who's hurt. And then our last bit of news, again, more bad news. Grant Williams from the Hornets tore his ACL the other night when LaMelo scored 50, which, again, it puts a damper on what has been really, I think, a promising start for the Hornets. They're not winning a ton of games, but LaMelo has looked amazing on offense, and Brandon Miller looks like a guy who was the second best player in the draft last year. He's been incredible. But a tough loss for them, Zena, especially they don't defend all that well anyway. Grant Williams is at least one of those guys who's out there, mixing things up. He's been a good screen partner for LaMelo. So, I'm not sure where they look to improve internally. They really just need some guys to get back.
Well, the thing is, I think that LaMelo and Brandon Miller, if you've watched their games, they're capable of being better defenders because they're hungry. Yeah. They have a lot of activity. It's a matter about control. LaMelo averages about 4.5 fouls per game. If he can find a way to do that with a little bit more discipline, he can be a better defender. This team is 19th in the NBA right now in defensive rating. And you want them to be, you want them to go from that 115 to under 110. That gets their net rating more positive. That'd be great. Yeah. And the two of them, I think, are absolutely capable of getting that lower number, especially towards the middle of the season.
They just need Mark Williams back. Bring Mark Williams back. They'll be okay.
We need some guys. They need some bigs, big time. Stick around after the break, guys. We'll tell you about the biggest upcoming game in the NBA Cup this week and why it matters. Week 3 of the NBA Cup group play. It's basically elimination week because we're going to know who is advancing by the end of the week. The Warriors were able to move on because the Mavericks beat the Nuggets. I mean, this is like, it feels like basketball playoffs to a certain degree when you're getting into all the group play stuff. And, you know, the courts are growing on me a little bit, but I still think there's a bit of a miss here. I know that, you know, were you in the building for the Raptors court with the Vince Carter dunk tribute? Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful court.
Yeah.
How come those aren't the NBA Cup courts?
I don't know, man. How come those aren't the permanent courts for them always? Like,
I
never
think that
do.
we're going to get that, especially with the Raptors. But anyway, I want to talk about the Cup, guys. This week on Friday, we're going to get Thunder versus the Lakers. And it could be to move on into the elimination round and to win that group. That, I think, is going to be the single biggest NBA Cup game in a group play setting in NBA Cup history, guys.
The defending champs.
The defending champs.
The short
Can
history.
they make it back and go and have a chance to go back to back? Don't forget, guys, we're going to be there. Yeah. I am thinking, I think the Lakers have a really good chance to do this. They're built for this, guys.
They're built for
Anthony
the Cup.
Davis. They are built for the Cup, and they're going to gun for it. Dawn Connect's been amazing, but that game, I've got it circled. It's a big deal. Yeah. And then we got to get to our picks because, you know, we've been doing pretty well, guys. I don't know about it.
I don't know, man.
I've been doing
missed
pretty well
over the last couple of weeks. I'm not going to lie to you.
I've been doing pretty well. I should say. It's more the royal we, if you're me. I'm like 6-2 this season. It's a pretty good run. Now I'm picking my spots, but I picked this week's game. I picked the Suns over the Lakers on Tuesday night in the NBA Cup. Yep. And the reason that I did is because I actually have this feeling, just due to various social media rumblings. You watch the Suns and their Instagram account, their Twitter account, they're starting to show KD in the promo, KD in the video at practice, passing the book.
Guess who's
I
back?
think KD's coming back on Tuesday, guys. I'm taking the Suns over the Lakers.
I'm on a similar boat with you. Not in that game. I'm choosing the Bucks over the Heat only because the tea leaves are also reading for the Bucks. Chris Middleton is set to come back.
It's comeback night.
He's been cleared, but it's up to him to come back according to Doc Rivers. So I'm very curious to see if he comes back into the mix. Are the Bucks rolling like we think they are?
I've been there with ankle injuries, Chris. I know the vibes. I've got the Rockets over the Wolves. I believe that is going to be also a clincher. Rockets are 2-0 right now in Group A of the Western Conference. If they end up winning, they clinch the group, which is massive for them. Young team getting an opportunity to respect the cup, you know?
Also, that defense matches up well and can cause a lot of problems for the Wolves who, when they've run into issues, against the Celtics, it's when the offense bogs down and the scoring stops. And man, with the way that they can switch and they can swarm, I mean, can Tari Eason guard Anthony Edwards?
I think he can.
I think he can.
A great game.
Can Amen Thompson? Like, that's 48
How
minutes.
How many bodies do they have to throw at these guys? That's going to be a great game. Guys, stick around all week. We're going to cover every single night in the NBA like we always do. For S. Baraheni and Zena, Keita, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.